Hey, it's Stu, and this is going to be my third attempt at a haul video. I have a stack of books here that I need to find places for on my shelves. And spring is supposed to be sort of like a cleaning time, but it's a really hectic time for me in my job. And it's kind of a time where I'm just like moving towards the summer when things change a lot, meaning I don't work. And so I kind of just let a lot of little things go. And one of those little things was keeping my recycling of books from thrifting to reading to giving away tight. So I kind of have piles of books everywhere. And my life is just a little disorganized. And I practice being okay with that for the spring. And so if this video is a little disorganized, I'm just gonna post it because I've tried a couple times before and I just couldn't, even my thoughts were scattered. So this could happen again in this video and I'm just gonna say that's okay. Where are all these books from? I'll tell you when I pull them up. If I recall correctly, I usually make little notes and pencil inside because the story of the book is also interesting to me as I do this book recycling thing. But I might just hold the book up and that's okay too, because the goal of this video is just to kind of showcase what I've got, think a little bit about why I got it or when I plan to read it and where I plan to put it. So the first came from my local friends at the library weekly pop-up sale where I get a couple of free books and then a couple more books that I purchased every week. And this is Scavengers by Kathleen Boland. This is definitely a cover made me do it kind of book. It is blurb by Megha Majumdar, and that also kind of helped, which was on the cover, so it's still a cover made me do it. But in this book, we have a sort of, I think, a newish adult, maybe someone in their 30s is what I think, early 30s, leaving their, aspiring life in New York in their little apartment and going to be with their mother in Salt Lake City. This book interacts with landscapes a lot, which I do like setting. You can kind of tell by the cover. I feel like this is a bit burning bush, so there might be some Moses references here. And I get to, starting over what it takes, what you have to take in our setup in society. That's what this book gives. When will I read this book? I don't know. I don't know when I have so many books to just get to now that this will just be one that either a reading challenge will come up and I'll grab it, or I'll just be, randomly pulling books. All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers sort of feels like goes on my mystery thriller shelf. I have a couple other mystery thrillers maybe in this pile or potential. My mystery thriller shelf is just a small square and one of those square kind of shelves. And it is, albeit double stacked, it is something that I don't outgrow usually. So by that I mean I either read or unhaul something to make space when I overstack. As summer's coming, sort of these like kind of propulsive reads feel like summer reads. I also like to just take it easy in the summer and not even be too intellectual. So I might be more comfortable with just kind of having a stack of mystery thriller books that I hope to get to in the summer. And then if I don't, I unhaul them. All Good People Live Here is small town, middle America, and about the secrets people keep and how this sort of like culture of silence, what happens between closed doors, stays behind closed doors, don't air your dirty laundry kind of culture really helps facilitate some darkness in our society. That's what this gives. And it was interesting enough for me to grab as one of my 2 free books. Super excited to have found Cold Tobying's Long Island. I read Brooklyn, which was part 1 of this duology, and I really liked it. I liked Colm Tolbeam's writing, his prose enough to also haul several Colm Tolbeam books. They are right there taking up a little bit of this shelf here. And I'll have to make a space for this one to sit alongside of them. Brooklyn has been passed along now several times. It tends to be a popular, it tends to be a good recommendation that I give folks. So maybe sometime soon. This feels maybe end of summer read. But I do have some other Colm Tolbeams that I'd like to maybe get to first. We'll see. Anyway, I was super excited to find it. And then finally, from this was one haul. So a couple free and then a couple that I paid for, which is usually what happens. So I am not just, using my friends at the library. Happiness by Aminata Forna, and the cover totally made me do it. This little fox is on the cover. This is an English author, and this setting is also England, maybe London. Apparently there's a fox. There's a fox in there. The fox is going to be, symbolic. And, I think this book deals with, happiness. Which, look at the kind of contradiction of the setting. So how to find happiness in somewhat bleak places, or how to find sunshine in the darkness of winter. That's what this book gives me. Okay. Also from the Friends of the Library, but not this week, maybe last week or the week before. It's sitting in the stack of books, so I think I haven't talked about it. This is Jenny O'Phil's Department of Speculation. One of the volunteers recommended me this book. They said it was told in vignettes, and it's a little bit of autofiction. Autofiction usually doesn't work for me, as biography and memoir don't work for me very much either. I like the other elements of fiction, but it's one of the 10 best books of the year that it was published by the New York Times Book Review, which sometimes is a reliable source for me, and came on recommendation. And where autofiction really doesn't work, vignettes do. In the last few books that I've read that have been told kind of in vignettes, it's really, really worked for me. So because this was recommended to me, I'm going to put it like on the top of a stack to get to hopefully in June. My May reading is pretty but I'm going to put it, I have a little shelf of like needs to be on a TBR soon. I mean, it's a little tiny space that I just kind of put books that I don't want to shelve and forget that I had a very soon reading plan but aren't quite TBR. Does anybody else have scaffolded layers of how they're going to read books? Anyway, Daughters of Sparta by Claire Haywood. Recently read Circe and the Song of Achilles. Liked the Greek retelling. Thought, I'm down Greek retelling, so let me go ahead and grab this one for free. And let me see. The Summer's Book Bingo has a myth or legend spot, so this could be a contender for that as I'm holding it up and thinking about that. Okay, this came from a little free library, and my classic shelf is also double stacked, but also very small. And it's actually just if it's a classic, it's kind of a flex, even though it's double shelved, hidden behind things. Sometimes you want the reference work. Sometimes you want the seminal work. Sometimes you just want to have some works to be like, I've read this, or I intend to read this. And that's how cool I am as a reader. Stacked behind other things. But hey, we all create our facades. A Tree Grows to Brooklyn impacted me at the age I think it was supposed to impact me. I have fond memories of it, but not a clear memory of actually much about it. And Maybe I'll speak more about that if I actually read this book. I found this in a little free library. I often, like, I'm very discerning about classics. I got a lot of them double stacked in, and it's kind of like I read a retelling or I want to read it. Yeah, there's a reason usually I pick up classics. So the reason for this one is maybe this summer it's my time to, reread this book and see where it sits. Okay, we're at Multnomah Friends of the Library, where I hold, I think, 6 books, which is actually pretty light for me there. They have a really, really curated section. They're a little bit more expensive than what my local does, but they do a really good job of just picking, relevant, good, popular books and in good condition. I let a few go. There was a couple that I was like, I actually could get that, and thought, you know what, chances of I'll find that later was fine. And then I wanted to be a little bit experimental as well. So this maybe was my experimental book. This is The Archer by Shirati Swami. This book is coming of age, which I really appreciate, and someone sort of having kind of the existential crisis that comes sometimes with coming of age, but also I feel like cycles through all of the times we come of a new age in our life. And this protagonist finds meaning in this traditional dance. And so I think the prose, if done well, will be like this swirly twirly dance, and I'll like it. If not done well, I'll be distracted by it, but that's like maybe over predicting. I wanted to learn about this dance, and I wanted to think, I was excited to read and think about, how different people use different mechanisms to make meaning of life in that coming of age period. Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone. The reason I hauled this is because it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I do now a multiple year reading the backlist of the Women's Prize for Fiction, and this is another coming of age. And there's a dress involved in this, and so this is sort of like multi-generational, and we're going to have impact of multiple generations of immigrants and the children of immigrants, I believe, in this story, because there's like, it's not a quinceañera because it says 16, but there's a coming of age ceremony where the mother wears a dress and then the child wears a dress, and there's a juxtaposition between the demands and expectations and different trajectories of lives at the age of 16 between the mother and the daughter. Sandwich by Catherine Newman. This gives summer vibes, of course, because it's a summer book. It's Cape Cod, and let me tell you how not interested I am in celebrity, upper class, upper middle class, or Cape Cod. Like, not interesting to me, even in the slightest. But what was interesting to me was sort of the other premise of this book. So it's named Sandwich, and I guess that's actually before the premise. I was with a friend, and I was like, let me just kind of pick books without knowing that much, and I'll tell you what I think they're about. And then we went and had Bloody Marys, and we reviewed my 6 books, and I was mostly right. And what I was right about in this one was that our protagonist, who's middle-aged, is sandwiched between aging and it was like a coming of age, I guess, again, in that age of becoming adults, about to leave the house, individualizing children, and then aging parents, whom this woman feels a lot of emotional, ethical, and even societal pressure to manage both of those, the care for everyone, basically, but herself, I think. And also, it talks about menopause. Love to see that representation in books. I think it's very real. So where I think maybe a lot of this in sort of a classist way won't resonate with me, and maybe even the intersection between race and class way won't necessarily resonate with me, but sort of like that story, all that I just said in the middle, felt like it will. This is a summer read. I plan to take it to San Diego, read it up on the lanai. It looks like it will not be very demanding. As well, as I said earlier, I don't necessarily want demanding intellectual reads. And then, put it in a little free library by the sea, because that's where that's going. Oh, no, I need to do the last two. Oh, okay, fine. Never mind. I'll mix them up. This also came from Multnomah Library. This is Andrew Miller's The Land in Winter. This recently was longlisted for last year's Booker, this 2025 Booker. So I have heard a little about this book. I have read Oxygen by Andrew Miller. I liked it. I found it just a little pretentious. And I think it's Pure on my Europa edition shelf. And this is not a Europa edition. So I'm like, what am I going to do with this book? Anyway, this is clearly a winter book, and like I can read winter books. No, I can read summer books in the winter because you kind of just want a break, but I can't read winter books in the summer, especially since I'm not traveling very much this summer at all to like a seaside summer. So likely I'll be reading this in the winter, which it's okay. That's actually a kind of around Booker time. I thought this gave kind of war, but no, this is sort of like Northern England atmospheric, which I do like. Two couples and the secrets that they hold. So that's what's going on in this book. This book is, like a family in the summer in Cape Cod. This is like, they might be at a sort of like vacation spot by the sea. If not, they're from like a little town and, it's definitely two couples and the secrets they hold. Speaking of winter vibes, Kate Moss's The Ghosts of the Winter Ghosts is definitely a winter vibe book. This mixes kind of mystery, horror, and historical fiction. We have, it's the end of World War One, the Great War. We have a soldier wandering around in the mountains in France. And encountering ghosts. I think that's what's happening. This resonated with me because Angel Down just won the Pulitzer, and it felt similar in a lot of ways. Time period, sort of even premise, where I believe Angel Down is a fallen angel and this is ghosts. And Angel Down's soldiers probably American, but it's still the Great War. So I thought, because I have now, Angel Down just came off hold and I'm going to read it digitally, most likely. If I can get to it, and I do intend to get to it, I thought, okay, it would be fun to read that and then maybe read this in the winter and just compare them in the ways that people kind of compare books that have some similarities and then a lot of differences. One is a female author, and one of the sort of my last maybe tangent of the video, so it doesn't get too long. One of the complaints that I have is just how dominated this prize and publishing and everything still is by males. Celestial Bodies was the book I was most excited to find at the Multnomah Friends of the Library, and this is by Joka Al-Harthi, and this is a multiple sisters. So we're going to get multiple POV Omani story. And this is sort of like historical fiction and how the history of Oman impacts women. Yeah. Super excited. This was the winner of the International Booker. I'm really tempted to read it right now, as they just announced the winner of this year's International Booker, which is Taiwan Travelogue, which I did read. But I think I have so many things I'm reading that, and I'm very interested in reading this book that I'm not worried about it kind of getting lost in stacks, as I'm starting to get worried about the growth of my collection. So, yeah, I'll say that's where I'll leave that. Okay, don't fall over a stack. Hester by Lori Liko Albanasi. Actually, this came, I think, from my local Friends of the Library in the last couple of weeks. I think this book, when it got hyped, had enough hype, and it was one of those like that I definitely, at my local, I read the synopsis and then I sit and read a couple of pages, and it kept my interest enough to haul it. Now, as I'm sitting here 1 or 2 weeks later, I'm like, I can't tell you why anything more than that, why I picked this book. So So there you go. Like, when it enters my stacks, I'm going to be like, why did I get this book, and why do I want to read this book? But, you know, sometimes that's part of the exploration too. And, you know, I've said this several times. Entering a book kind of innocently and just finding out about it while you're in it, like when I travel and I just pull a book off of, you know, a shelf there and read it. Yeah, that can be really fun too. My only challenge is I have a lot of books. I'm going to continue having a lot of books because where I do read and on haul, I just find ways to get more for more than I read, and that's, I guess, the conundrum of almost all readers who also collect books. Not that I'm a book collector, but I mean, obviously I hoard books. Look at the bookshelf behind me. The last one I'm going to talk about from the MoMA Friends of the Library is Burnt Shadows by Kamala Shamsi. I loved Home Fire, and Home Fire is the reason, which is also by Kamala Shamsi, if you didn't know, is the reason that I started following the Women's Prize for Fiction, because it was a Women's Prize for Fiction reader, had the sticker on it, like this has the sticker of the this other award that this book won in 2010. Oh, it was also shortlisted for what was then called the Orange Prize, which is the Women's Prize. In any case, I read Kamala Shamsi. It was Kamala Shamsi's Home Fire. It was a retelling of Antigone. I really liked Antigone when I was in high school, and so I thought, how is she going to do these certain things? And she did them, and I was happy. Burnt Shadows follows women, and I don't know if it's the same women or if it's like family, multi-generational, but through like multiple life, like world impacting events such as Hiroshima, which is why it's called Burnt Shadows. Super excited for this book. I will get to it when I get to it. If not, I'll get to it when it's usually March or around March that I'm reading Women's Prize for Fiction. Backlist. Specifically, like I'm reading them throughout the year, but it's when I'm really focusing. Do I want to tell you about these other ones, or should I just say this is a long enough video? Yeah, maybe I will leave it there because it's already a 22-minute video and I just got a message that someone's on their way. And you know, I'm sorry that you don't get to know about every book I haul these days, because sometimes I literally just haul, especially if it was for very cheap or free. I read about it and then I decide no. So sort of my stack of, let me see if I really, really want this book, and then let me, you know, on my little free library adventures, just distribute it out, seems to happen a little bit more these days. I guess I just feel that I have a lot of experimental stuff. I have a lot of authors that I trust, and I'm okay letting things go. And this can literally be my hobby. By that I mean like taking in books and figuring all that out. In any case, I told you it'd be a bit rambly as it was, but that was my stack from the last few weeks. Sans a couple of books that it's okay. I won't talk about them, but I will figure out if I want to read them and find a place for them. And then my next video is going to be a TBR, because I already did put some books on a TBR shelf in anticipation for making room for some of these. And I want to make sure that I make a sort of like formal commitment to them. And so that's what's coming next.